day of this recording. It's podcast launch day. I know I already said this on like the first episode, but I legit cannot believe that this is happening. It feels surreal. And honestly, a couple times I've started to cry today. And let me pause, if that made you want to run for the hills, then all the more reason to listen to this episode. So, yeah, I've wanted to cry like several times today. Actually, I have cried and have teared up several times. And I'm going to share this with you because I want you to know that it is okay to be human. And I want you to know that even those who appear as though they're not experiencing all the things, they still are because they're human. So I have a lot of clients that will come to me and they're like, I want to feel more confident. I don't want to feel this so much self-doubt come up. And the story in their head is that they shouldn't experience self-doubt. And I'm going to tell you that is incorrect. Incorrect. If you are a human, and I think everybody listening is, but who knows, then you're going to feel all the things. And the more that you can allow yourself to feel all of the things, the more that you will allow others to feel all the things. So, okay. It was a big push to get all of this done. And then today, leading up to today, I'm having these thoughts of, is it good enough? Are people going to like it? Is it going to resonate? How clunky does it sound? And I'm sharing that because that is a lot of self-doubt. That is a lot of, questions that I'm like, I don't know if it's good enough. And it's okay. Even if it is clunky, even if people don't like it. I know what I'm sharing is not rocket science, but I don't know. I just wanted to share with you that's how I'm feeling today. Maybe that will feel good to you to hear. And, speaking of crying, since I mentioned crying the other day, yesterday I had an in-person event, and one of my clients said, I never cried before I met Steph, and now I can't stop. And she said this in front of a few other people, and I was like, shh, we don't want to scare him away. And others in the room started joking, oh, we're going to put that on our website, that testimonial. And anyways, this person's response was like, no, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I want to share that with you because what if you did hear me say oh my gosh, I've cried several times a day. If you had this sweep of judgment pass, or you had a harsh thought pass, that happened because you probably do not give yourself permission to emote. And if you don't give yourself permission to have those emotions, very, very likely it is because of the way that you were raised. Also, messaging in society about we shouldn't cry and this and that, but very heavily probably in the way that you were raised. And I know that I'm talking to women right now who identify with having an emotionally immature mother, or a narcissistic mother, or a toxic mother. And in those cases, those women haven't built their tolerance to feel all the things. And I want to tell you that in so many ways, your goal, in order to be who you want to be, your goal is to expand your tolerance to feel all of it. Because as humans, and I'm going to talk about this probably over and over again, but we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort trying not to feel things. And most people that I've encountered aren't totally aware of that. And some of the most common, like coping or numbing, let's use numbing strategies are with food, television, just banged the desk, so that's okay. So with food, with television, what else? Working a lot, which I'm going to talk more about that today because I fell back into an old pattern. Shopping, drugs, prescription medication, alcohol. You see where I'm going. All the things to numb emotions. And so in many ways, like the goal of life is to expand your tolerance, because if you have a high tolerance, a wide tolerance to feel everything, then you are going to be rock solid no matter what happens. And that doesn't mean that you might not kick and scream like a toddler, or that you might not feel frustrated or angry, but in the end, it's pretty short-lived. And one reason why I encourage you to really work on expanding your tolerance, and by the way, I work with clients on this so much, give them so many tools to be able to increase their capacity. But one reason is for those you love, whether they're your children, your fans, your friends, your family, your partner, all of that. If your tolerance for negative emotions isn't there, the way that you'll show up for other people is to try to make them not feel those things, whether it's sadness, frustration, anger, any of those negative emotions. So, and probably it's coming from a good place, and you might not even always realize that you're doing it, but it's actually defensive listening. And it is like, could sound like, oh no, you shouldn't feel that way. Like maybe they're complaining about their body. You shouldn't feel that way. You look great. Look at all the progress you've made. So like you're trying to make them feel something. It is okay to let people feel whatever they're feeling. Or sometimes this defensive listening shows up as one-upping with like, oh, you think that's bad? And then sharing your own story. And many times I hear this in the context of emotionally immature mothers also. And yeah, so the more that you expand your tolerance for yourself, you will be able to be more empathetic with others. And those who are more empathetic have better relationships. Anyways, this is a little bit of a tangent, but what I mentioned and what I wanted to come on here today is I wanted to admit that I fell back into an old pattern recently. And I promised you on, I think it was episode 1, that I would share vulnerable things. I would share things about myself throughout the episodes. And so, I've already started doing that, and more of that is today. So much of my life revolved around hustling, and now what I know is hustling for my worthiness. So I had my very first job by the time I turned 14, and I always either was in work and school at the same time or had 2 jobs at the same time until I worked to break that pattern in, I think it was 2016. But I, over the last 2 months, really fell back into hustling for my worthiness. I felt like, a good portion of April and up until now in May, that I was like barely keeping my head above water, trying to do it all. And I'm almost exclusively talking about for my business right now, like not thinking about personal relationships or motherhood or my relationship with Ed, who is my husband, but just in work. I've been working so many hours. And I'm sharing this because I find that the women that tend to listen to the podcast and follow me on Instagram, and those who are on my email list, like they resonate with hustling for their worthiness, with being a high achiever, with doing all the things, with basically their accomplishments make them feel good about themselves and make them good enough and worthy enough. And your upbringing has a lot to do with that, probably. The way that I was raised is that you work, and I never really had this concept of rest. Honestly, it was when I was in college, dating a guy, and he, said he was going to rest and recharge. And I was like, what the heck is that? Rest and recharge? Like, I feel silly saying that now, but it was not on my radar. Like I'll just speak for myself. If I was sitting still, then I needed to do something. So I'm curious, if that resonates with you. I'm willing to bet that it probably does. And maybe you have made shifts in your own life and you're not hustling for your worthiness. But I absolutely fell back in that. I was working over the last, almost 2 months all day. And then I'd get the girls from school, we'd put them to bed, and then I would start working again. And then, of course, because I was on my laptop until late in the evening, then I didn't sleep as well. And then I just start over again. And why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because clearly there's still a piece of me, still a part of me that believes that I have to drive myself into the ground like this, and that it's not okay to say no, and that I have to do all the things that I signed up to do. And I didn't pause long enough. Like when presented with a new opportunity, I didn't pause long enough to consider, do I have the capacity to do this right now? So I signed up, for a new business program the end of March. And I, somewhere around, I think a little bit before that, I did this breathwork certification, and I'm serving all of my clients one-on-one and in my group program. And then I said yes to a podcast, and then I decided I'm going to, launch this breathwork program, which, by the way, keep your ear out for more information there, because wow, it is going to be a game changer for you, a game changer. I cannot wait to share more. Okay, so back to the to-do list. And what else? I don't even know. Then I was planning a 2-day in-person event and corporate gig, and the list goes on. And I'm just like, I could change the deadline for almost any of that because I'm the boss, but I still just was like, I just got to make it through. Just got to, I know the other piece. And then on top of it, I'm also losing weight. And that's not something that has come easy to me over the last couple of years after having Sophie. So, but while hustling for my worthiness in this way, that makes the weight loss piece harder. Anyways, okay, I think you get where I'm going. I just wanted to be completely open with you and highlight that I had missed opportunities of saying no, or scheduling for later, or rescheduling things. And so that is what I am committing to do. And I'm telling you this also to hold myself accountable. But here's the thing that I really want you to know. This will happen because you are human, and it might not be this exact situation, right? You might have a rather easy time saying no and not overscheduling yourself. So it could be a different example, but this lesson is still going to be helpful. You are human. You will fall back into old patterns, and that is okay. So here's a couple things that I want you to do, and this is what I do for myself, and this is what I recommend to my clients. When you fall back on the bandwagon, you have a couple options. You can beat yourself up. You can talk poorly to yourself. You can put yourself down. Or you can meet that with compassion. You can meet yourself with compassion and simply get back on the bandwagon and continue. You can do that without judgment. And you might be thinking like, yeah, Steph, that sounds nice. Like, it sounds really nice. That's what everybody says. Like, oh, give yourself grace. But if you're here, we're going to go deeper than that. I'm not just going to tell you to give yourself grace. There is something, if you say like, I want to give myself compassion, I want to give myself grace, and you're not, there is a hidden reward that is keeping you from doing the thing that you say you want to do. And that is key to being able to change it. I'm going to leave you with that nugget, and I'm not going to give you all the answers. I'm going to tease you so you come back for more. Yes, but that's exactly what it is. If you are saying, yes, I want to be able to give myself grace, and you don't, there is a concrete reason why, and I can guide you through how to overcome that hidden reward so that you can create the life that you want. Now, on the flip side, some of you listening might be thinking, no, I can't give myself compassion. I can't give myself grace. I have to judge myself. I have to punish myself. I had a client recently, and she asked me, she said, what's appropriate? Like, how long should I punish myself? Like, how extensively should I punish myself? This is something that let me guess around what time it happened. I think she was referring to something that had happened roughly 10 years prior to when we were talking, and she was still holding on to it. And it was this moment that sort of haunted her and would come back up, and she would feel like she had to punish herself so that she learned from it. And this is probably like a whole full episode. What I want you to know, though, is that you don't have to punish yourself. I know most of you learned that's what you have to do. You learned that if I want to get better and I want to create changes in myself, then I have to punish myself. I have to make sure that I don't do it again. And the thing is that's incorrect. That is 100% incorrect, because I just want you to think about in that moment, where is your energy? Your energy is on beating yourself up. So how much energy are you going to have left over to make the improvement that you want? Not a whole lot. Versus if your energy is in compassion and accepting whatever happened, accepting that you are human, then you can create all the changes that you want in yourself, because all of that energy is free to basically create solutions and come up with what you want to do in terms of next steps. Now, I'm going to be fully transparent with you right here. I fought this one big time early on in my healing journey. Like, I was like, this is not true. This can't be true. I have to beat myself up. That's how I was raised. That's the way that it works. And that's what I accepted as truth and reality. And it just doesn't work like that, which is beautiful. And I'm sure that we are going to get more into that as things go along further. But that's all that I had to share with you today. Just wanted to let you know I fell back into old patterns, and these are the steps that I am now actively taking to get back on the bandwagon so that I can play more and create more of the life that I want, and still accomplish everything that I want to. I don't have to drive myself into the ground, and it is safe to rest, and it is safe for you to rest too. So without further ado, thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you have not yet put a review for the podcast, please take a few moments to at least rate it with 5 stars. And if you're willing to say a little bit more about this podcast, when it gets reviewed, that basically sends a message in particular on Apple to push it to more people and to recommend it to more people. So I would be very grateful if you would do that. I will see you next week.